Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins. Yo, dog, Kenny Boucher here, The Long War. Tonight, I'm joined by my partner in crime, Wyatt Turk.
Yeah, what's up?
So, we don't exactly know, and this is true, okay, this is a true statement. We don't exactly know where Rob is right now.
Don't. He's missing.
He is, to my knowledge and my belief, missing. Okay, and he said he couldn't make the show. He was very vague about it. I said, are you okay? He said, mostly. So, I think he had a stroke. I believe that to be true right now. I believe that due to the GW price hikes, I think GW put Rob in the hospital.
Oh, man. That's pretty serious.
I have no way to verify this information. But at this moment, this is a true fact. Now, so since it's just me and Wyatt out here, we like to do the laziest kind of content that we could fathom, which is, oh my God, there's like a fucking wolf spider on my desk. I want to say size of a quarter, silver dollar.
Out, dude.
Should I just let him chill?
Yeah, he just wants to be your friend.
Oh my God. All right, I'm gonna relax, spider. Oh my God.
Bro, they don't mess with peoples.
Oh my God. All right, calm it down. Live and let live. Oh my God, he's so big.
Here's Florida, so he's probably been eating like Florida irradiated mosquitoes.
I mean, for sure. And now I don't know where he is. He's gone now.
He'll be fine. He's not gonna mess with you.
Okay, I'm gonna sit back a little bit in my chair. I'm on high alert now. People in chat, let's see. Fuck spiders. Smash it. Least of my concern in Florida. Recoil says kill all spiders, but he's from Australia. That's probably a smart life. Yeah, Kara Quinn says that spider's definitely in my bed. No worries.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's only two types of spiders that I'm okay with: daddy long legs and those guys.
The wolf spider.
Any other spider, kill on sight, because I don't know what they do.
The wolf spider looks like a small tarantula. He's
like a little mini tarantula.
Yeah, he's terrifying.
But they don't attack. They don't mess with people. Like they're just there to eat bugs and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Thinking for yourself. He says he's definitely gonna bite you when you're sleeping. 100%. Yep. That's how I feel about this guy. I don't know what I'm going to do after the show. I'm going to have to pull the vacuum out and just go nuts in here looking for him. Now, every hair in my body that moves because of the fan, it's a spider now. So, we're going to do a Hobby AMA 2024 edition tonight as our big segment. And without Rob here, we probably are not going to do a Would You Rather. Is that accurate?
I mean, I prepared one if you want to hear it. It's kind of a softball.
Okay, throw me your softball. Would you rather?
Would you rather, for the rest of your life, give up eating hamburgers or give up eating French fries?
Holy shit, that's hard. I thought you were going to say
both
something
delicious.
Would you? Oh my God. He fucking landed on me. This fucking guy. I knew he was coming.
I gave him the benefit of the doubt. He just chose violence.
This fucking spider. You son
Dude, has he been like nibbling on your leftover?
He literally jumped on me. He's right there. That's it. You're fucking done, motherfucker. Yeah. The whole chat was saying murder you. And then one guy said, live and let live, you piece of shit.
Has he been like slurping on your leftover 4 Loco cans and he's all aggro now?
Yeah.
Did you create a mutation?
Fucking obliterated that asshole. Dog, I was going to let you chill. I was going to let you sleep in my bed. We could have shared that bed. I was just getting over this thing.
Wow.
Fucking.
I guess he learned today.
You went from all the way behind there to here, and then you leapt onto my fucking leg. What an ass. Yeah, so I thought you were going to say something fucked up like, would you rather be covered in wolf spiders? Fuck wolf spiders. I'll kill infinity wolf spiders. So I'm going to say I'm going to give up hamburgers because there's no way I'm going to give up french fries.
Fault.
Like, french fries are just too good, man. It's not even hard. Like, you know how much stuff I eat that comes with french fries?
Well, french fries comes with a lot of stuff. I think that's why it's a hard choice.
Like, hamburgers are dope, like, for sure. But damn, french fries are the goat. Yeah, I can still have hot dogs. Besides, hot dogs are dick-shaped. They're superior to hamburgers in every way. Fucking spider. All right. Well, live on this podcast, a spider's been murdered. Hopefully for the last time, Florida. Apparently, I'm starting to think that my window unit, AC unit's just letting in bugs.
Oh, yeah. 100%. These things are not airtight. They're not weatherproofed.
It's very upsetting. And my parents had the house painted over the last 2 days, so I had the air conditioner off because they're like painting around it. So I'm thinking like they're just crawling in there and making nests now.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's also getting warmer. So getting into the summer months where they want to get inside the house where it's cool.
Yeah. Spray foam, Jeffrey. I think they're coming through the motherfucker. I don't know how air conditioners work. I'm just saying things. You're probably right. So, okay. News-wise, we don't have Rob's paperwork to comment on news, but we do know that there was a price hike, which allegedly sent Rob into the hospital. And
That's coming in June.
In June. And we also now know some of the detachment rules and previews for Chaos Space Marines, which is near and dear to me and Wyatt's heart.
Yep.
So what are you most excited about in that article? It might not even be the rules.
If I had to put it on one thing, the return of Soulforged back.
Yeah. Anybody who's unaware, we used to have a detachment that we used to be able to run back in the day, like a formation style detachment. And it gave you a bunch of cool special rules if you ran a bunch of fucking demon engines. It was amazing. We had a cool special stratagem. There's an advance and charge mechanic. It was
Disco Lords popping off.
Yeah, we had a relic that let us have like extra movement inches. Like, it was dope. Classic.
Yeah, Soulforged back was cool.
I think at some point, sometimes we ran Dirty Mike and the boys with our triple thermal knights, and sometimes we ran a Soulforged pack with our thermal knights. So we used to have some fun times with that. So them hinting at us getting a classic throwback is pretty fucking sad. That's toward the bottom of the article.
Yeah, so we actually don't know any rules for Soulforged pack. There are some rumors circulating. I'm sure that as the days go by, we're going to get probably like the full codex leak, like it always happens. We'll find out soon. Maybe by the time you're listening to this, it'll have already happened.
It'll probably, I mean, if it's going to be like the old days, there has to be some movement jankery in there.
Yeah.
So looking forward to
we've heard rumblings, some whisperings in the warp.
And so they showed us a couple of thematic detachment rules. There's like the Alpha Legion thematic one that allows for infiltration, like you can infiltrate some cultists and some legionnaires. Very old school. They showed us one that was Red Corsairs, pirate themed, where all your weapons in your army are now assault weapons, and you get extra AP when targeting people on objectives. Very fucking dope. And remember, guys, Chaos Space Marines, a lot of people consider their army rule from the Index era to be the strongest one. Like, they're straight up Slaves of Darkness packs. has been very impressive on the tabletop. The ability to just snap, sustain hits or lethal hits from any unit in your army and enhance that die roll through marks has been very powerful. A very dope cheat code for the free rules category. So anything that would make you not take that has to be pretty good.
Yeah, definitely seems like there's going to be 8 pretty diverse ways to play your Chaos Space Marines. It's going to be a lot of player expression, which I'm always a fan of.
Yeah, and even if there's not an optimized one that's better, right? Forget that.
Yeah.
Like, you have a Chaos collection, and you have a lot of fucking Demon Engines. They're going to give you a way to play that. That's really what you need to be looking at. Like, you don't always need to be like the most optimized. You don't need to pick the best one. You need to pick the best one that works with your collection, that you're building, maybe your playstyle. Like you said, player expression. They even hinted at that Slaves of Darkness, which is our current shit, is going to be changed to something like Pact Zealot Pact.
Pact Zealots.
Pact Zealots or something like that. Like
Pact-bound Zealots.
Pact-bound. So this is interesting. This leads us to believe that that's going to be the only detachment potentially that has marks, that has Chaos guy representation.
Yeah, just like the regular Space Marines, they're kind of echoing that sentiment where like these are not named. Like you're not playing Alpha Legion as your army rule. You're playing, Raiders and Reavers as your army rule. But if you want to go hard in the Alpha Legion style, you can. Same with Space Marines, where like you have the Iron Storm is coded in its branding to be like the vehicle attachment, Iron Hands kind of thing, but you can play it with anything. And we were talking about this in tactics earlier, where I think this is really cool because it allows you to take your Chaos collection or whatever legion is near and dear to your heart and play it however you want. So it's like, sure, right now there's like the most competitive detachments with Space Marines where you have Iron Storm and Gladius, but you can play whatever Space Marines you want within those detachments. And even the ones that are kind of not super up there in terms of being played a lot, like Firestorm, still have a lot of really good rules. And if you tech for it and get good with it, they can be very competitive.
Well said. So I'm looking forward to that. Like they gave us like the cultist mob kind of, word bearer-y with the Dark Apostles kind of list. Look, they gave it, they hinted at an Iron Warrior style themed, fucking Night Lords theme. So they're definitely going to hit all the flavors. They hinted at like a Black Legion, right? Which would be like almost just Space Marine, Chaos Space Marines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like tactically flexible. They showed us some really powerful stratagems, devastating wound stratagem that allows you to fall back, shoot, do some dev wounds. They showed us a Torrent 6 nonsense stratagem, and they even said no Zinch.
Yeah.
Don't come in here with your rubrics and all your fucking flamers. So I'm excited to see what it looks like, because I'm curious to see how, because some of the one of the first things I noticed was like that stratagem was a Galaxy Burn, the one that gives you dev wounds if you can fall back and act as normal.
Black Crusade.
Black Crusade. So that one, half of the fucking stratagem is already a stratagem we have, like Demonic Swiftness. Like that's the one that lets you fall back, act as normal, or if you have the Marcus Lanesh, you can advance and charge. So that's kind of half the mechanic built into this new stratagem and dev wounds. So that's where I'm getting curious. Like, are we going to just kind of keep the 4 stratagems that pick out the marks of chaos? Are those just going to stay Slaves of Darkness, now pack-bound zealots?
It seems like the more warp tainted, let's say, type of chaos is going to skew towards the like word bearers branded thing of the pack-born zealots. And then word on the street is that the veterans, the Longward attachment is going to be your like standard kind of old school Chaos Space Marines Black Legion coding, that's going to be the other side of the coin from Gladius, where it's like kind of have that tactical flexibility and similar style buffs to Gladius, but it's like the chaos version.
It's pretty exciting. I want to see what new keywords we get because they already hinted at damned being a keyword.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
seems like damned is going to be for all the normal humies.
Yeah, because like that one list, that cultist list, like that Legion of the Lost, the damned looking army, you know. So that's interesting. I'm curious to see, like units like the Lord of Skulls. Like, is he gonna stay in the Chaos Codex, or is he gonna vanish and just be a World Eaters unit? Like,
man, I hope so. I definitely like having 2 codexes to play with my Lord of Skulls rather than 1.
Yeah, I think that, it's lowing in fruit. They want to keep them because having a big Titanic model in the lineup is good.
Yeah.
So, that's something I'm looking at. I'm curious to see how allies and stuff are going to work when we, toward the end.
That's another good question because we still have the ability to play Plague Marines, Rubric Marines, Noise Marines, and Khorne Berserkers. But we know that stuff like Lucius the Eternal and Noise Marines are not going to be in this codex because they're getting their own supplement at a later date. Who knows when. So what does that mean for the other 3 cult troops? Can I take my Raiders and Reavers attachment and use Khorne Berserkers? Like, we don't know yet.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how, because right now you can do 500 points of demons or up to 3 war dogs from knights. So I'm curious to see how, because we have a pretty loosey-goosey ally matrix right now.
Yeah.
It's got rules, and it's reasonable, but it's been stricter in the past. So curious to see where we're moving, especially because Chaos is one of those armies that does a lot of wild things, has a lot of flavor built in.
Yeah.
So as far as, assessment of the current information we have at this moment, it looks pretty good. Like, it looks playable. It looks promising.
Hopes are high.
Yeah. Me too. So, and price hikes in June. News.
For the best game aids and peripheral tools for wargaming, check out our friend J15games.com. From wound counters and dials to faction rule trackers, these are the coolest tools out there. Designed to be functional and intuitive, these tools help you stay organized and speed up your game. Their flagship product, the Nesting, Movement, and Combat tool, is absolutely amazing. A magnetized measuring widget that splits into 3 different size tools for every situation. And you can get it in 8 different colors. J15 also offers custom ordered dice trays made from hardwood and leather. Check them out at j15games.com. That's j15games.com.
BaronofDice.com, the official dice sponsor of the Long War podcast. Use promo code LongWar5 for 5% off. If you're looking for a superior dice manufacturer, then look no further than Baron of Dice. Custom artwork, faction representation, and crisp razor edge squared dice. Remember to use promo code LongWar5. Again, that's BaronofDice.com, the official dice sponsor of this podcast. So let's speed run this podcast, show Rob how professionals work. We're going to do our 2024 hobby AMA. We farmed the after hours crowd for some questions. If you listen to this podcast and you're way to work, that's how me and Wyatt like to roll, and Rob's not here. So scrolling back up to the top of my list, I've got Marcus Squintus. Quick question, or not. He says, I'm getting away from most GW paints. Finally. If you could only have one complete line of paint, what would it be?
Oh, I mean, it's going to be Pro Grill, obviously.
A few of these questions are going to skew that way. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Monument Hobbies is the name of the company. If you listen to this podcast, you've probably heard us talk about it before. They're not a sponsor of the show or anything like that, though we are friends with Jason Craze, the progenitor of the Pro Krill line of paints under the Monument Hobbies flag. He puts out a good product, if not the best at this moment in the hobby space. And if something changes, we'll let you know. But currently,
I will say this as a caveat, because I know that saying like I just buy this paint is not always the easiest solution. So let's just say you can't get a hold of Monument Paint. I mean, you can order it direct from their website, but maybe you're the type of gamer that only wants to support their local hangout, and your local hangout doesn't stock them. Okay, fair enough. In a world where Pro Acryl does not exist, I would go with either the AK Interactive paint lines or Army Painter. Army Painter, is it the greatest? No. Is it better than GW?
Their new line of paints is vastly improved for paintability. Yeah. They finally do deliver on their promise of being a beginner paint line.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to use now. So
they have a massive amount of color selection, effects paints, speed paints, airbrush paints. So yeah, in a world where Pro Acryl doesn't exist and I had to stick to one single paint line, I might very well go with Army Painter just for ease of access and selection.
Stated, sir. Now, Meticulous Chaos, he says, missed a lot of your latest streams. Wouldn't mind hearing your opinion on the 3 new Pro Acryl paint sets at some point tonight. I have all 3, but I haven't had a chance to use them. Looking forward to Satin Black. So here's a unprompted follow-up Pro
Acryl plug. Let's see. I've only gotten the new fluorescents, which I really like. I'm still playing around with those, trying new things. The other day I was painting a banner and I was like, I want to make this green banner like really cool. So instead of my normal workup, I actually added in the fluorescent paint into the matte paint. And it got like a really cool pop effect on the colors. So that's something new. I got a couple of the new signature series. Matt, I don't know how to say his Sexwish. Sexwish, is that his name?
That's my guy.
Matt, my Sexwish. I got his. So far, most of the paints in that one are pretty tight. I had a problem with one. What was it? It was like, is this dark burgundy? Or no, it was this dark magenta. The first time I ever had a paint where I was like, what is wrong with this paint was this dark magenta. And I don't know if maybe it's just a bunk bottle or something, but I was like, I need to tell Jason about this because this is not tight. But overall, some of the new colors, like I really like this warm brown. That color is like the old Beastie Brown, if you remember that one. Fan favorite color, that one is really tight. This new bone color is the one I had in my hand. I'm trying to read his name. From the Matt Sexwish line this is tight. Kind of it's like a tan off-white bone color that has so many uses. Really good color.
So anybody else who's listening, those are called signature paints. Jason,
yeah, they have like the Matt line, the Ninja line.
Yeah, he's partnered with a bunch of influencers online who are amazing painters, and asked them to come up with like a pick of paints that would, like if he had them, like they wouldn't need to use these 3 other manufacturers anymore, right? Like there's special, Harvest Browns and shit, the old school. Yeah. So there's a lot of great ones out there right now.
All right. Since we're on this topic, I must once again ask community for your support. Please, mail letters, actual physical letters, mail them to Jason. Tell him that we need the Jack Close Painting Taco Bell paint line. We need that Baja Blast. We need that Nacho Orange. We got a grassroots crowdfund this. Let's go.
Baja Blast Signature Series brought to you by Taco Bell. That's how we do it. We just have to shop Taco Bell's as a signature paint line. Like, just go to corporate, go to market.
Yeah.
Jason's just sitting at his house and he gets a call from literally Taco Bell corporate. They're like, we need you to run the Baja Blast paints. So, Grandmaster Alfarius, so this is AMA, says, What is your favorite edition to play and why?
I know what your answer is.
10th edition.
Yeah, the current one.
It's
always the current one.
Yep. It's always my answer. As long as I'm playing 40K, right? That's like my analogy is Doctor Who. Who's your favorite Doctor? Who's the Doctor right now? That one.
Mm-hmm. You always go with the old Tom Brady, the next one.
The next one. Nice. That's always going to be my opinion on it. Just, I don't think there's anything, like, if I were to, like, subdivide my brain to, remove objectivity, right? Like, because I feel like as an objective game analysis, that the game is objectively superior. Like, there's no edition that rivals the superiority of this edition. But if I were to cut that part of my brain out and go for nostalgia, right? Pure how it made me feel. Then 3rd edition.
3rd?
Yeah.
That's before my time. I'd probably go to 5th. That's when I actually
5th was my follow-up. 5th was my follow-up.
Yeah.
That was absolutely, like, it's a toss-up, 5th and 3rd. But 3rd gives me the most, feelings.
Yeah.
Because that's where I started, So 4th was kind of a trial run. Literally, we had trial vehicle rules and trial assault rules because they were trying to figure out how to make transports work. Because 3rd, it was got pretty OP. So it was kind of a speed bump on the way to 5th. Okay, now we're back to Monument Hobbies questions. Gravity's a Theory says, how many uses for Noosh so far? Somebody was already asking this in chat. Has anyone used Noosh? So you'll see that our audience is appraised of a lot of our painting opinions, and as we haven't let anyone down the wrong path in 10 years when it comes to these types of things. Noosh is a new product that has been developed by Jason and his Monument Hobbies Beats Lab. And it is, at first glance, it looks like an acrylic medium. And it is advertised, and I'll even read the bottle's name, as a acrylic weathering medium. Okay, so he also makes a acrylic glaze medium, right? You can go to the hobby store and buy Liquitex acrylic medium. Okay, medium. So what makes this medium special comparative to any other medium on the market? Well, the first thing you need to know is that a medium is that's the acrylic compound. Then the pigment is added, right? Like they're mixed together. So the actual thing that makes acrylic paint is the medium. So when you go to, the hobby shop and you buy some Liquitex medium, you're buying just stock acrylic medium with no pigment. And, you're probably buying the matte finish. You can add that to a paint. And what it will do is it will lower the opacity of the pigment in the paint without introducing moisture, right? It's just going to spread out the pigment over a further amount of medium. Some people use that. They find that handy, especially canvas painters. It'll also just innately extend the dry time a little bit because of the nature of the acrylic paint. It has to actually cure, but it will cure still pretty fast. So then you have like glazed mediums, and everyone's got their own little proprietary blend of thinners and mediums, and cut it with water to tell you that this is a product for this, that's a product for that. You don't need to get caught up in all that. 99% of the time, you just need water. But there is something unique about this. So this is advertised as acrylic weathering medium. Now, you as a scale hobby guy, when you do some weathering shit with your oil paints, what are you actually doing? Like, what is your process?
It's addition and then subtraction, right? Because I think I know where you're going with this. Because I've watched your streams working with the Noosh. You really like the subtractive quality of the medium. And so a lot of times when I'm working with my weathering pigments and my oil washes and stuff, you apply them much like your beginner level washes, right? You slap them on there, maybe use some kind of distillation like water or other type of medium to thin those out, help them flow over the model better. Do the same thing with the weathering oils. You have like a solvent, you have mineral spirits, whatever it might be.
And why are the oils so predominant though in a lot of the scale communities though?
It's because they don't stain. It's two different types of paint. So unless you're also working with oil paints and you've varnished and all that kind of junk, when you're working with acrylic paints or enamel paints, the oil washes, they don't react chemically. So they just like slide over the surface. And the whole point of washes is to slide over the surface into the little details, to give them shading, to pick them out to the eye. So when you take that black oil wash and you put it on your model, then you take your thinner or your solvent or your mineral spirits and you use your brush or the Q-tip, whatever it might be.
Yeah, whatever.
You subtract it from the model so that your nice flat armor panels are clean and not stained. Or you can streak it, many different techniques, but you are subtracting from the model and leaving it in some spaces.
And also, there's a lot of work time in the oil world. Like,
yes, true oil washes have a ton of work time. They take a long time to set, which is sometimes what you want. In our world, where I got to paint 10 Space Marines for Friday Night Warhammer, that's why we like the Mr. Weathering color, which is similar to an oil wash as far as behavior, except that it dries very quickly. Like you have a good working time as long as it's wet with the Mr. Weathering color solvent. But then when you set it to dry, it's like less than 5 minutes.
It's like pre-thinned. Like back in the old days, you would put like a glob of black oil paint down and you would have streaked it down with some solvent, and it would have taken a while to dry because of how much more oil paint was actually in it. So like the work time is a big part of getting that streaking grime effect, getting those like cool rust stains. That's wiping it out, like, oil staining it up and even using a rag to wipe it off to get like a building to look good. There's a lot of tech to that. It's something that acrylic paint innately does not have in its arsenal is work time. It's acrylic paint. It's water soluble, evaporates and cures very fast. So for people who are trying to get that certain effect throughout a certain work time, they struggle with acrylics. And so this is not a stock drying retarder either. Like I asked about this, like, why does this work better? Because drying retardants don't typically they don't really reactivate with water. They you start kind of peeling them off and they'll get kind of textured because they're curing unevenly. And if you try to reintroduce moisture to it, you kind of just ruin it. This is very similar. The Noosh product is very similar to like a traditional oil. It reactivates water and it gives you some work time. So there's some people have made videos doing exactly like the stuff that Wyatt was talking about, literally identical. But I have found, to answer the question, how many uses for it, I have found uses in edge highlighting, like crazy with this stuff. I have found uses in limited wet blending. I would still prefer to not use a lot of this in wet blending. And a lot of paint application, I grab a little Noosh now on my brush, because if you fuck up a little bit, like if you're doing some trim, because there's a little Noosh in there, and I got a little paint on the armor panel I wasn't intended to, I can usually grab another brush with some water and completely subtract it to zero. So the Noosh gives you all this utility. And recently I've been doing things like your fluorescent paints, right? Like I paint some magic nonsense white. Then I go like 50-50 Noosh and fluorescent green and like copiously apply this over Nooshed fluorescence to the magic nonsense, and then kind of use a little moisture on my brush to kind of push and prod it into obedience. And it looks like it's like a one and done package deal. Almost looks like that shit. Remember GW made that really terrible product where they said you could paint gems and jewels with it?
Oh, yeah.
You know that shit? It's kind of like when I painted Armand's magic hand nonsense. I did it that way, and I was like, this is like the gimmick that was never delivered from GW back in the day. So just adding a product that does the thing I just said to your paint has almost limitless application, as long as you understand what's happening. You're lowering the opacity of the paint, exactly proportionate to how much Noosh you're introducing, and you're also extending the work time of said paint, and your ability to subtract from it is still relatively higher than you're used to with acrylic paint. So if you know that about Noosh, you can kind of do anything with it, and you can find 1,000 uses for it to answer that question as thoroughly as possible. And I always think of an oil painter doing little streaking grime effects. I did some streaks on the Lord of Skulls axe, but I mean, they're shines, not grime. So
Gotcha.
You can do anything with it because it lets you kind of reposition and rebuild your line. If you have a shaky hand, it's crazy. So Dark Horse says, what do you guys think is a good starter paintbrush to get? Almost was another monument question.
I mean, yeah, it's the monument stuff. I mean, you can't go wrong with Winsor Newton. Like they're good paintbrushes. I am the type of person who believes in buying quality and taking care of it rather than buying shitty stuff and treating it like shit and then buying it over and over and over again. So I don't believe in the whole like get a beginner airbrush because you're going to destroy it, or get a beginner paintbrush because you're going to destroy it. Like, just be an adult, buy something nice, learn to take care of it. So get some monument paintbrushes, get some Winsor Newton Series 7s, like Artis Opus or
Raphael, it's Cletus.
Raphael. Like
these are prestigious brands. Like,
yeah.
So the only thing you need to know if you're a beginner is that they're, a lot of these brushes are sable. They're like Kolinsky sable hair, and there's always been an argument to should you get a synthetic or should you get sable? The synthetic blend has come so far in the last decade that I have pivoted 100% to the preference personally of synthetic sable now, where I was not that way early on. So they're also easy to take care of. So either way, if you go with a prestigious company like Winsor Newton or Raphael, you got shout out the cash. Make sure you buy some brush soap. You take care of them, because the better the product, the better it's gonna make you. Straight up.
Yeah.
Straight. It makes you better. Like, it's like everyone who's ever bought a cheap airbrush switched to the good airbrush, and the next day it was like, yo, I just got good at airbrushing. I was like, yeah, dude. So the product is gonna make you better. Don't buy the cheap shit. Don't go on Amazon and buy cheap shit.
It's kind of a fallacy, right? So it's like, if you're gonna buy a $50 airbrush and then end up also buying a $200 airbrush, like, you're spending $250, whereas you could just spend $200. So actually buying the good one is cheaper than buying the shitty one and having to get two.
Yeah, always. And I always say that there's always a right tool for the job, right? And a lot of times the right tool is the most expensive tool. Now, sometimes that's not true. Like in the case of Monument Hobbies, 22 milliliter pots of paint, sub $5, with a seal, an agitator, and a gasket, and a twist top. So we've been telling you that's the best paint this whole AMA, and it's not even the most expensive. So it's not always the case, but a lot of times when it comes to your actual technical tools, a lot of times it is. Now, Kara Quinn. Here we go. Have you used all the Monument paint sets yet? Buy them all, skip one. What do you think?
I
actually only use like, I'll count. I'll tell you right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I use like, I'll tell you right now how many I use. I use in total 56 paint pots from their entire line.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm probably not too far off. I kind of I just buy singles now to do refills, and I typically wait on new colors until those new colors are singles, because like I do the same thing. Like I don't need a totally new color for every single job. So
no, Kara Quinn, he clarified. He meant specifically the new ones since Decepticon, the signature sets. I will hot take that. You don't need any signature sets, Kara Quinn. They're nonsense. That's why I don't have one. Like, every paint color already exists in his line, and all of these are is micro deviations to make a more convenient, paint pot for someone to grab. I don't need a more convenient paint pot. I can already make every color from his core set alone. So, you actually are not, there's nothing that you need in a signature set. What they bring to you is convenience. That's it. So if you want more convenience, buy every signature set 100%. But if you're fine, the way you are, you're already using the best paints. Yeah, that's right. Even Jason says just mix it up. Yeah, like I use 56 paints, and most of them are from the primary set, and a lot of them are transparents. I use the shit out of transparents. I go through bold titanium white like a maniac, and now transparent white because of you. So, Dark Horse. Was a Wyatt. Dark Horse says, should you use dirt, sand, etc. from your backyard?
I mean, yeah, you can. Nothing wrong with that.
Have you done it?
Have I done it? Literally from my backyard? No. I think I had back in the day, I had a guy do a big back patio project, and they put down a bunch of sand, packed sand in his backyard. He had bags and bags of it left over, and he just gave everybody Tupperwares of these sand.
So playground sand.
Yeah, so that's the cheapest I've ever gotten, and that's fine. Typically, if I want that, I get actual basing material from scale modeling companies, just because sand has grit to it. So there's extra fine, large, it actually does make a big difference within scale. So years ago, I bought this bag of super fine grit scale, I think it was 1/35th scale basing sand. So it's really, really fine grit. And I've just been using that for the past 5 years and still have a ton of it.
That's a good point. There's nothing wrong with environmentally sourcing your gravel for your bases. You do have to be aware of a couple things. Like Kara Quinn in chat says, dirt, wolf spiders, no. So you always got to remember, you're going to contend with the wolf spiders if you're going out into that dirt. Also, as Mason brings up, backyard sand and cat poop for that Nurgle feeling is on the table as well. So, and most importantly, as Wyatt mentioned, scale matters. A lot of times the dirt you're going to get from your backyard is the wrong scale. Unless you happen to live by the beach or some shit.
Yeah.
So do yourself a favor and just, if you want to glue the dirt on your base, like Wyatt has mentioned, just buy a tub of hobby grade.
It's so cheap. It's a pound of it for $5, and I've literally been using it for 5 years, and I still have so much.
Yep. And also many manufacturers make texture paint now, and you can combine the two. You can go in there and slap the texture paint on with the color you already want your dirt to be. You could sprinkle some of the fine grit sand and kind of some quadrants to mix it up a little bit. Throw some wash and dry brush it. There's a lot of very convenient technology that exists now.
Mm.
But there's nothing wrong with crowdsourcing your dirt or environmentally sourcing it. Sideways. What is this is a good one. Hobby AMA, here we go. What is the most fun you've had painting and hobbying a single model side from Sideways?
And I think it's for me, it's a tie between when the new Abaddon model came out and the new Mortarion. So they had so much cool stuff going on. The new Abaddon was such a fantastic model when it came out. I had so much fun doing all sorts of cool tech. And then with the new Mortarion, maybe it is Mortarion, because I actually painted that same model twice. I did it originally when he came out. I did some conversions on it, gave him these zombie dragon wings. Had a lot of fun. And then years later, I went back and I wanted to change the color of his armor. So I repainted his whole armor, used a bunch of like new weathering techniques that I had picked up with new products and stuff. And I had a great time both times. So probably the new Mortarion.
Yeah, that sounds like it. For me, it's Gazgo. I said it when I painted him, and I stand by it to this day.
Yeah. Gaz was also fun.
Gazgo, the new iteration of Gazgo is a fucking joy to paint. It felt fun the entire time. It never felt like you were working, you know. And I also did enjoy the Lord of Skulls paint, the one I just did, mainly because it's such a monumental task.
Yeah.
So the sense of accomplishment that Project High was very maxed out. Like because it's nothing like a knight or anything. It's so much more difficult, you know. So it's a high difficulty threshold did provide me with a lot of joy as well. But Gazgo, I think, is so fun. Savage Painting. Since you need questions, what are your best finishes at large tournaments and with what armies? From Savage Painting.
I mean, we have to define large tournaments. I think the largest GT I ever won was like 50 something people back when I was in college. So that would have been like 2009 to 2008, 2009.
So what are you proud of? Just go with like the most proud, you know, like that.
I guess like the biggest tournament was Lone Star Open a couple of years ago. I made top 8.
Oh yeah, what were you playing?
I was playing the Double Lord of Skulls Iron Warriors.
Hell yeah, yeah you were.
Solid 8th place. Let's go.
Yeah,
barely got it in there.
Hell yeah, dude, that's sick, dude. Like I mean, I'm playing this game so long. Oh, like I can answer that question like from every edition practically. Like fucking it's 4th edition Atlanta GT. Second place, Chaos Space Marine Nurgle Army. We didn't have rules at those eras. We didn't have like Death Guard. But I did have a Great Unclean One, baby, and you has to summon that motherfucker. Yeah. You had a guy who the demon was locked in, and on a 4-up he shows up. Every round you roll it, like at the top of the battle round, basically. And he had a piece of work here called Demonic Chains to let you re-roll it.
Nice.
She was wild, dude. She was wild as fuck. And in 5th edition, we won ATC, made my team twice. Once with, I was playing Grey Knights once, and fuck, I can't remember the other time when I was playing this thing. Oh, Space Wolves. So within 5th edition, I did extremely well with Grey Knights and Space Wolves. And I won I top 8'd it. I have a trophy. I must have won it. I have a trophy up there from Wargames Con years ago. Awesome.
Oh, the old Wargames Con days.
Yeah, so I have a trophy up there. So I won something there. And it was with Chaos Demons. So that's all 5th edition. That's why it was hard for me not to answer 5th edition before. So that's 3 big achievements in one edition with 3 completely different factions. And I think, in 5th edition, we won the 4-man teams at Adepticon, Blood Angels, son. And I won a billion Rogue Trader tournaments of Blood Angels. That became my addiction in 5th edition. Like, I did really well at a Wargames Con in 6th edition with my Flying Circus one year. Demons. Like 6 Demon Princes. And then I think from there, and then I did really well at in the modern era at Feast of Blades with the double thermal, or not Feast of Blades, Slaughterfest.
Oh yeah, Slaughterfest.
And with the double thermal knights. So
that was a good showing for both of us. That was a good tournament.
Yeah, and SoCal later that year where I added the 3rd one.
Yeah.
So those are all the different play styles since 3rd to now. Like, so the game is so wild. Like you can't just stay in one lane the whole time, you know? What was the Kara says, I remembered your Chaos Army at Genghis. Kenny, when half came in first turn and half second. Oh my God. Yeah, those demons, baby. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Shit was wild. Yeah, shit was wild. There's like a video of me playing Goat Boy, and he's got the Drago Star with fucking Cotias in it, and I've got my Fate Weaver demon list that comes in two halves. And Cotias has a power called Dark Excommunication, which turns off all demonic war gear, which is a problem for my army. And I turn one, drop in the Fate Weaver, kind of hide. Then I move exactly his max distance, measure 6 inches out, because Fate Weaver, you get to pick his powers. One of the powers I picked was called like Boon of Mutation. 6-inch range, you can pick anybody out in a unit. Toughness check. Cody has a toughness 3. If he rolls a 4, he's a chaos bomb. Turn 1. Wow, get fucked. I'll never forget that game. As long as I live. You see, this how fun this game is. Can't fuck the memories. I can remember games from 10 years ago like that, like they're happening in front of me, dude. You too, right?
Yeah. I mean, you just talking about you playing Goat Boy reminded me of Alamo GT when I first played Thomas for the first time, and he like crushed my dreams, ended my undefeated run, because I was like 1-3 in a row, won game 4, super close, and then game 5 was the first time I'd met him, and we played, and he absolutely like clapped my booty cheeks. And I was just like, oh my god, I had no idea Chaos could even do all the stuff that you're doing. And then I got pared down into another list that was really good against what I was playing, and then lost that one.
He derailed all your momentum.
Yeah.
This fucking guy. Thomas Goat Boy. 40K sweetheart. Marcus Squintus. Question 2. Do you think that Warhammer be better off going to a D8 or a D10 system to provide greater flexibility within armies and rules, as well as balancing out factions? It seems to me that a D6 is not enough. This is that interesting one I commented on before. Or I didn't comment on it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. What do you think? I don't know anything about D10s and D8s, so.
No. It's a discussion that's come up before. I don't think anything that adds layers of contrivance to 40K at this point is good for the game, because 40K is and probably will continue to be for the rest of our lifetimes this like kludge of differing game design ideas and mechanics all mashed together into this huge war game with like over 20 different factions with allies and all this other stuff. So anything that's like, okay, well, this gun works on a D6, but then this gun works on a D8. And it's like, okay, well, I have this one type of ability, and that ability is copy pasted throughout other factions, but with this other faction, it uses a different dice. And I just don't think I don't think the way that we use dice in the game has anything to do with the reason that it is the way it is.
Yeah,
I think D6s are just fine.
I think you want it to be standardized. Like to, you could absolutely create more narrative and more detail by adding more dice. Like absolutely. But why it's kind of saying is we want less of that for gameplay. Like like that, we're too, the game's too big for that. Like
using stuff like that in skirmish games is fine. I think that's really cool. And I like games in the past that have done stuff like that. Like I played a game called Dark Age that had different dice. Infinity uses D20s and stuff like that, and that's a really cool game. But those are all skirmish games where small battlefield, like 5 to 10 models per player, that kind of thing. 40K is just too big.
Yeah, agreed. I hear your point on it. I agree. Wordy357 says, my models usually come out darker than I thought they would. Any tips on getting into the pot more without looking cartoonish?
Let's see. So if you mean cartoonish, you mean bright saturated colors, because we don't have context.
So yeah, it probably means like oversaturated, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, just highlight your models more is the easy answer.
Well, what's probably happening is I imagine he's using like an airbrush and he's looking at the paint wet, and when it dries, it's you're seeing
There's also that. So like you have to account for even when you hand paint. Paint is the color is going to be brighter and more vibrant when applied wet. And then when it dries, it mutes out, fades a little bit. So if you want them to be brighter without adding saturation, like if you don't want your stuff to look cartoony or comic booky, then adding in brighter shades will so it's like if your stuff is getting painted blue and you want a brighter blue, but you don't want it to look cartoony, then the way to do that is you just take a off-white color, like a light gray or even a white, and you mix it in little bit by little bit to brighten that pigment up, and it's going to desaturate a little bit. Because when you brighten paints up, like those are your options. Like you either add a brighter shade of blue, like you go from blue to turquoise.
Yeah, you get like a triad from a paint manufacturer,
which is going to add saturation, or you desaturate that color with a bright shade like an off-white gray or a white or a bone color, which is going to pastel a little bit. So if you want a more realistic style of brighter colors, and scale modelers do this all the time, you're going to desaturate those colors with lighter shades.
And also, he could be misusing the term brighter, because if he is just painting like blue and he's doing a bunch of layers, a bunch of coats, and then it looks great, and then it dries and it looks darker, he's confusing like the optics with opacity, right? So if you prime the model black and you painted it a few times with ultramarine blue and it looked great, then it dried and it looked darker than you thought, that just means that you haven't achieved the correct opacity yet. That means the black undercoat from the primer is still showing through. You can still see it through the filter of the blue. So the brightness is not really the component here. The blue is brighter than black. Everything is. It's your blue's not opaque yet. And you want it to look kind of like it looked when it was wet. That just means more coats. So do what Wyatt said, and also don't sleep on maybe you just need to do a couple more coats. Maybe you're coming in with too low opacity over too dark of a base coat, and you need to do more passes. Or use a different primer. Maybe you got to use a gray instead of a black.
Yeah.
But, it's all, that's good advice to anyone out there, right? And that's a lot of times, that brings me to the zenithal, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes, priming. A lot of people use this term to describe kind of value painting a model, black, gray, white. And then they do like speed paint, right? Well, zenithal just means from the top down, it's the zenith, right? And priming is the step you do before paint application. So you'll see me do zenithal, quote unquote, priming a lot. But what I'm not trying to let the values inform the hues from the grayscale. I'm doing something I call better priming practices. White, gray, and black all have a reason to exist in the priming world. Black in the recesses is great because it means you don't have to get as much coverage in the recesses, because really black-blue looks great in a shadow, right? And the midtones is really supported by gray because everything kind of sticks to gray and stays perfectly neutral. And white lets us see the best version of the color. So doing a quick little zenithal style primer might actually also get you the result you want when you come through with that like theoretical, hypothetical ultramarine blue as a follow-up. Dark Horse, yes, we have two more. It says, what are your thoughts on using, this is I think what you mentioned, silicone pop toys for holding paints?
Right. If it works for you, cool. I mean, it's a gimmick.
What is it? I don't know what that means.
So I don't know who started this trend. It's definitely like a YouTuber trend where there's like these squares of half circles, and it's cast in. So it's like picture a square, and the square is a grid of half circles cast in silicone, and you can press them, right? And it flips the half circle to the other side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are like fidget toys, because what kids do is they just sit there and they pop them over and over again. So because they're cast in silicone,
you can pop the paint out.
Right. Exactly.
So you be using these as like an eggshell tray, like paint to put your paint in
for
and paint
your
with,
paint palette.
and then when it dries, you just pop that paint out.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like if that works for you, like cool.
Yeah.
I personally don't like that because
That's not how we apply paint. We don't puddle up a bunch of paint in a little depression and paint from it. That's not.
exactly. Like you can use wet palette. I like the palette paper.
Almost anything is better than piling up a bunch of paint inside of a depression, like for our hobby. Like, because you don't need much paint.
And I also mix colors a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And even if I'm using a solid color, depending on the surface of the model or the shape or the technique that I'm using, like I want to be able to manually control the dilution of that paint using my medium or my water, where I'll have like paint from the pot and then I'll drag a tail off and have one thinness. And then I can do that again to the other side and have a different thinness. And I can manually adjust that on the fly on my little flat palette. And you can do that with a wet palette too. Or I can have two colors and I can mix them together and get that perfect consistency every time. Having all the paint separated in those little divots and pulling from that just seems limiting to me.
I agree. It's not my system either. One of my students in chat mentions, McKinney, I can work with your 3 bottle cap wash system. I teach, that's my second lesson in my curriculum. But if we use these fidget spinner pop out paint holders, Cletus, then what am I going to do with the bag of discarded bottle cap lids I have? Like, I already have those. That's why I use them. Anyway, sometimes when I do a wash, I might put a puddle of wash in a little container. Josh Miller, last one, says, what is the best way to turn a Land Raider into basing for a knight or a terrain piece?
Assuming you mean
what tools would you use first off?
Yeah, like if you're talking about taking a Land Raider, turning it into a wrecked Hulk that a knight is sitting on top of. Just for reference, if I were to grab a Land Raider, couple right here. I mean, like this thing is as big as my face. And it's too tall. I mean, I think this thing is like just about 3 inches or so tall. Probably want to cut that in half, right? So if I was going to assemble a Land Raider specifically for the use of basing, probably what I would do is when I assembled it, I would use like thick consistency plastic glue, and on the inside of the model when you're assembling it, so not on the exterior, but on the inside of all your joints and seams and everything, like slop that glue, like glue the fuck out of it.
Weld that shit.
Get it as solid as humanly possible, right? And then just use a bandsaw and just like cut that bitch in half. Cut it long ways in half to where it's like half the height that it was before. And then, you know, if you need it to fit on a base, like cut the perimeter of the base into it with a bandsaw.
Do you use like a Dremel or anything for this kind of stuff?
Yeah, you could use a Dremel. You could drill holes in it. You could gouge it. All that kind of stuff. I mean, like if you're just looking to like take a Land Raider and destroy it to the point where it looks like it's a wrecked Hulk sunk into the ground. Yeah, probably just like a bandsaw or what's the type of saw that uses wire?
I have a jeweler's saw that I use for a lot of the stuff too.
Yeah, you could use a jeweler's saw if you're going to do it by hand. That could work too. Anything that's, I mean, you could use a hand saw. That could work. The problem with this plastic though is that like you want something with an incredibly fine tooth,
or a melt.
So yeah, so like. Well, not even
hand saw, just like tear pieces.
Jacked, yeah.
So I use the jeweler's saw. I've done some incredible stuff with that. Yeah, it makes sense. So weld the shit out of it before you start cutting.
Yeah.
All right. That's our 2024 AMA. With no Rob Bears. Hopefully that was helpful. Thank you guys for providing us with the content that allowed us to just answer questions today because we were not prepared to do any other kind of podcasting. We weren't professionals. That's what we have Rob for. Now, anyone whose questions doesn't get answered, or if you're driving to work and you listen to this and you have even more questions, you can always find me and Wyatt on Instagram or on Twitch or on Facebook or Discord. You know all the fucking places. So, I'm actually going to throw it to Wyatt, and without Rob here, I guess you might actually have to take us out.
Yeah, I have to do the bet. Yeah. So for all of our extra content, head over to thelongwar.net, become a member of the Long War today.